Salvete discipuli. Today's lesson is going to be challenging. All right, today's lesson is chapter 10. So before we begin, make sure you have your book open to chapter 10 and your chapter 10 notes in front of you. And I'm going to begin our lesson by reminding you that you have a list of 200 words, and those are the words that we have used and learned throughout the 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade. And those are the words I've decided kind of to have a treasure box, a foundation, basic words to memorize and to know those Latin words. So before you begin this lesson, pause the video and read through that list of 200 words and study them and refresh your memory, and then come back and prepare to be amazed. Because today I'm going to teach a lesson about something that you have not heard before. You might have seen it and just not known and understood exactly what they were, but today's lesson is about verbals. All right. She said what? Yes, today's lesson is about verbals. All right, this is a lesson that when I was a teacher, a junior high English teacher, I taught to the 8th graders, so you can feel like you are advanced. You are very smart, and you're going to get an advanced grammar lesson today. You remember what grammar is, right? Grammar is how a language works. Well, I'm going to start off by explaining something in the English grammar, and then we're going to see how it plays out and how it works in chapter 10 in our book. All right, today's lesson, verbals. Yes, you did hear me right. I did not say gerbils. I said verbals. Here's the word right here on the board, verbals. Hopefully you can see it well in the video. Verbals, V-E-R, verb, with an A-L-S at the end. So verbals. These words are verbs, but they no longer function like a verb. You remember what a verb is, right? A word that shows action, correct. Walking, hiking, jumping, writing, talking, thinking, learning. Yes, all of those things. Those are verbs. Those are things we can do. Well, verbals are words that are verbs, but the way they are used in the sentence, they are not showing action. All right, let me introduce you to these guys here. This is Herbie. Herbie the verb, okay? Yes, I know, he's a caterpillar. This is my explanation, hoping to help you get a grip on it in your mind. All right, so caterpillars, they're cute little fuzzy little guys. They crawl along the ground, and eventually at some point in their life cycle, they attach themselves to a twig on a tree or some kind of a leaf, and they spin a cocoon, and throughout that whole amazing metamorphosis, they become a beautiful butterfly. Yes, so this is Herb, the verbal, okay? So this guy and this guy, same animal, correct? Correct. They're the same animal, but once he changes, he has a totally new purpose in life. He gets to fly around and people admire him, and I don't know, I'm not a scientist, so I don't know what these animals actually accomplish, but here is my reasoning. All right, it's the same animal, but they function in different ways. They have different jobs. All right, so that's what a verbal is. A verbal is a verb. In fact, it is a verb. It looks like a verb, but it does not act like a verb. It acts like another part of speech. And in fact, verbals are verbs that act like either a noun, an adjective, or an adverb. Wow, I know, that's really strange, isn't it? I put some sentences on the board to help illustrate the fact. So, you can help me analyze them. Number 1. The dog is barking loudly at the neighbors. When we analyze a sentence, the first thing we do is to put the parenthesis around the prepositional phrases. So do you see it? Yep, there it is at the end of the sentence. At the neighbors. All right. What is the verb of this sentence? What's the action being done? The dog is barking loudly at the neighbors. Correct. Is barking. Who or what is barking? That will give you the subject. Who or what is barking? The dog. The, what is that? It's always an adjective. Okay, so the dog is barking loudly. What's the word loudly? I'm sure all you smart fifth graders know this. Loudly is an adverb. It tells how she's barking. All right, so that is the verb in that sentence. It shows action. That's what the dog's doing. In these other sentences, I have shown you how that we can take the word bark and use it as something besides a word that shows action. Number 2, the barking dog is a nuisance. Now I have an adorable little Maltipoo for our pet. Her name is Peaches. And she is white. She is very short and small and fluffy. And she's cute, but she barks. I think she barks because she tries to make up for her small size. I'm not real sure. I also think she's a big scaredy cat. Pardon the expression, she is a dog. But anytime anyone comes through the door, she barks loudly. If she sees or hears someone walking by on the sidewalk, which has been happening a lot lately. I'm sure it has in your neighborhood too. We all get outside. We love to walk because we don't like being cooped up in the house too long. All right, so anyway, she barks a lot. And so here's my sentences and here's my point number 2. The barking dog is a nuisance. All right, there's a word in that sentence that you know is always a verb, and what is that? Right, it's the word is. Okay, what's our sentence about? What's the subject of this sentence? Is. Who or what is? Right, it's the dog. The dog is the subject. Dog is what? A nuisance. All right, the word nuisance is a noun. Okay, here's a big reason right here that helps you to know what follows is a noun. So a nuisance, the dog is a nuisance. Do you know what that word nuisance is? It's a noun, right? But its job in the sentence is called a predicate nominative, a predicate noun. It's a noun that follows this linking verb and renames the subject. So the dog is what? She's a nuisance. All right. The word barking in this sentence is not a verb. The sentence does not say the dog is barking. What is barking in that sentence? If you said it tells you what kind of a dog, you are correct. Because barking is an adjective that describes what kind of dog. So now we have that same word that in number 1 was a verb, and now it's an adjective. All right, and so the words here in chapter 10, the new kind of Latin words that we're talking about are participles, and that's what this is. It is a participle. It is a verb that's acting like an adjective. Say it with me. What's a participle? A verb that acts like an adjective. All right, there is your first verbal participle. Number 3, barking loudly at the neighbors is Peach's favorite pastime. Okay, here we go. Let's see if we can analyze this sentence. Now, we've got this word in this sentence that we know is a verb. Is always a verb. Can you say that with me? Is always a verb. Right. You know a big long list of those. Is one of the linking verbs. Am, is, are, was, were, be, being, and been. All right. They can also function like helping verbs like it did in number 1. In number 1, the word is a helping verb. Okay, if it stands alone, it's a linking verb. So is our verb. Now, in this sentence, we're wondering, next thing you always find is the subject. So what is the subject of this sentence? Is it neighbors? Nope, it can't be neighbors because neighbors isn't a prepositional phrase. Never can have a subject in a prepositional phrase. So, can't be neighbors. Is it peaches? Nope. Peaches is not the subject of this sentence. In fact, peaches needs to have an apostrophe on it, doesn't it? Okay, we'll come back to that. So peaches is not the subject. Let me tell you, barking loudly at the neighbors is one whole big phrase that is acting like the subject. Whoa. I know. I told you I was going to blow your mind. Okay. We've got a group of words acting like a subject. I don't think you've ever seen that before when you've been analyzing your sentences in your English book. Okay, we've always found one word or maybe two, like if you've got a name, a person's name, but never a phrase. All right, this here, the word barking, okay, we could even take out the rest of it and we could say barking is Peach's favorite pastime. All right, we still have this verb here. This verb is not a verb in this sentence. It's not showing action. It's the subject of the sentence because it tells us what Peach's favorite pastime is, and barking loudly at the neighbors. All right, so this is called a gerund, right here. G-E-R-U-N-D, gerund. And a gerund is a verb that acts like a noun. So in number 3, we've got barking as a noun. Barking is Peach's favorite pastime. Peach's, adjective, favorite, adjective. Pastime is another one of those predicate nominatives. Noun that follows the linking verb and renames the subject. So barking loudly at the neighbors. Wow, it's a whole phrase that's acting like the subject of the sentence. And what is it called? Do you remember what I just said? Gerund. Correct. Number 4, Peaches likes to bark loudly at the neighbors. All right? Let's just take this out. Let's end our sentence right here because this is true also. Okay, this is a complete sentence. Subject, verb, complete thought. Peaches likes to bark. All right, let's analyze it. Likes is a verb. That is definitely showing action. Peaches does that. We do that, right? What do you like? Watching Latin videos, right? No, I'm sure that's not on your list of favorites. All right, so Peaches is the subject. Likes is an action verb. And who or what does Peaches like? Peaches likes to beg. Peaches likes pizza. Peaches likes bread. Peaches likes meat. Okay? She likes a lot of stuff. She also likes to bark. Okay, so in this sentence, we've got a verb that's acting like a noun. And it is called an infinitive. Oh, there it is. We've talked about infinitives before. Do you remember what they are? What is an infinitive? To plus a verb. Correct. An infinitive is the word to plus a verb. All right? So we've learned about infinitives in Latin. Amare, to love. Laborare, to work. Scribere, to write. We've learned what they look like. We've never just learned about how they function. And here I'm showing you that an infinitive is a verb, but it's not showing action. It's acting like a noun in this sentence because Peaches likes to bark. The words to bark are an infinitive and they're functioning like the direct object. Ooh, I'd love to show you how that would look in a diagram, but I'm trying to keep my videos short. So today I'm just showing you, and you might want to replay this because I know I've just thrown something very new and very different into the mix of your grammar knowledge. All right, this is an introduction, certainly not. If I was wanting to teach you verbals, we would do a lot of work about identifying them and seeing how they work in sentences. But for now, this is just an introduction to the word verbal. A verbal is a verb, but it acts like another part of speech. And in our chapter 10, they're introducing to us the word participles. The participles, they're verbs that act like an adjective. They're verbs. They look like verbs. They're verb forms, but they act like an adjective. All right, I'm going to play chapter 10. I'll play the audio, the CD for you so that you can hear these words pronounced. And then I'm going to quickly tell you what each box means, because I've seen some of you've turned in the sentences for translating chapter 10, and they're a little confused because it is pretty different and a little bit challenging to translate exactly these participles and make them fit into the sentence. So here we go. Chapter 10.
April. Comings and goings. Barates comes to buy.
Chapter 10.
Barates, Flavium quaerit.
Solus sum. Miser sum. Volo ancillam noam evere.
Box 2.
Flavius ad atrium vocatus, quam celerrime festinat.
Salve, amice. Quid vis?
Salve. Volo Pandoram emere. Quanti est?
Ehem. Candide, quare Pandora?
Candidus ad dominum missus, ex atrio festinat.
Box
Pandora
5.
in atrium ductam, paratem spectat. Pandora ridet.
Pandora diligens est. Pandora urnatrix optima est, et suaviter cantat. Pandora igitur cara est. Volo ducentos denarios. Placet me tibi?
Mihi placet.
Optime. Corinthe, tabulam para.
Corinthus ad dominum iussus, condicionis in tabula scribet. Pandora aberrate empta, nunc anxia est.
Noli timere, Barates benignus est.
Sed Corinthus et Candidus tristissimi sunt.
Right, that's the funny part, and everybody would be laughing right now. All right. So, if you would like to pause the video and try to figure it out by yourself, that'd be a great exercise, a great mental exercise. And here we go. I'm going to tell you what each box means. Number 1, solo sum miser sum volo ancillum noam emere. All right, I'm not going to read each one in Latin, but here we go. Barate says, I am alone, I am lonely, I am miserable or sad. I want to buy a new slave girl. And if you'll remember why he wants to buy a new slave girl, I think it was chapter 5. I don't know. I don't remember. Maybe it was in the other book. We read about maybe at the end of the purple book, Minimus, we found out that Barate's wife dies. And so he's looking for another wife. And so he's alone and he's miserable. Regina, I think, was his first wife. All right, so at the bottom of the box, we've got a new verb here. Look in your words to help. Quaerit. It means he looks for. So Barates is looking for Flavius. Number 2, he says, hello, friend, what do you want? Flavius. All right, now here's the first participle. This participle phrase is set off by a comma. Okay, so he is not doing this. This is a word that's describing him. We could even take it out of the sentence and it would still make sense, because if we took it out, it would say Flavius hurries as quickly as possible. Okay, This phrase here, ad atrium vocatus, is describing Flavius, and it is called to the hall. Okay, so here we go. To translate it, you would say Flavius, called to the hall, hurries as quickly as possible. All right, number 3, he says, hello, I want to buy Pandora. All right, so he wants to purchase Pandora from Flavius. She is his slave girl, and he asks, how much is she? Quanti est? How much is she? So look, Flavius is thinking about that. I don't know. Number 4, Flavius says something, and he says, ahem, Candidus, look for Pandora. And so then at the bottom, Candidus, sent by his master, hurries out of the hall. Okay, so sent by his master is the participle in that sentence. It is not, no one's doing it. It's an adjective describing Candidus. Which Candidus are we talking about? The one that was sent by his master. All right, so the word sent, it's a participle. It's a verb form, but it's acting like an adjective. Number 5, Pandora led into the hall. There's the participle in that sentence. Pandora led into the hall, watches Barates, and Pandora smiles. Okay, number 6. Flavius is giving her qualifications and why she's expensive. So here it goes. He says Pandora is diligent. She's a hard worker, in other words. She's diligent. Pandora is the best hairdresser, or someone who knows how to fix hair. And she sings well. She sings sweetly. Pandora is therefore expensive. Igitur. Igitur, it's over there, a conjunction, therefore. Interesting. Okay, therefore she is expensive. Number 7. All right, so Flavius says, I want $300. In other words, in our language, no, I'm sorry, not 300, 200, ducentos. So I want 200 denaries. That is their form of payment. And he said, does that please you? Paket ne tibi, does that please you, or is that okay with you? He says, yes, it pleases me. Number 8, he says, very good, very well. Corinthe, prepare a tablet. Okay, prepare a document, in other words. So Corinthus, ordered by his master, writes the conditions on a tablet. Okay, that's a little bit different from some of the translations I've seen from yours. So again, Corinthus, ordered by his master, writes the conditions on a tablet. Number 9, here are these two guys saying, don't worry, they're talking to Pandora. Don't worry, Barates is kind. Pandora, bought by Barates, is now anxious. She's a little worried about this situation. Number 10, these guys are sad because she's leaving. But Corinthus and Candidus are very sad. All right, here we go. Let's quickly read through this grasp the grammar. You have already learned, remember, learnt is the British way of saying learned. You have already learned 4 different forms of verbs. Tenses, commands, infinitives, and personal verbs. Okay, we've learned 2 tenses, the present tense and the imperfect tense. Present tense is action happening right now. Imperfect tense is action happening in the past, but it is like a continuous action. We've learned about infinitives. I just talked about that a little bit. Infinitives is the word to plus a verb. Okay, we've also learned about impersonal verbs, which are verbs that have a subject of it. Okay, this new part, pick up with me here on page 73 about grasp the grammar. This new part of the verb is called a participle. A participle, easy for me to say. A participle comes from a verb, so it's an action word, and it behaves like an adjective. Okay, always remember, the Latin language is all about endings. The endings tell you everything. Endings on a verb. Remember, what did the ending on a verb tell you? Who's doing the action? The ending on a noun tells you what it's doing in that sentence, what job it's performing in the sentence. Is it the subject? Is it the direct object? Is it the indirect object? Okay, so the endings tell you something. Ending on an adjective tells you what gender it is. Let's see. Boy, the Latin is all about endings. Okay, so here again, it's going to look like a verb form, but it's going to have this special kind of ending, and it's going to be like an adjective. So therefore, it's going to have to agree with the word it's describing. For example, here they go. In a picture 4, Candidus is sent by his master, quote unquote. The Latin word sent, missus, is the participle from the verb mittere, to send. All right, so look back at number 4. Candidus, sent by his master, hurries from the hall. Okay, so Candidus is not doing the action of sending. He is being sent. So the word sent is a participle describing him. If you'll notice, it ends with the same masculine ending that Candidus does. Okay, continuing here and grasp the grammar, compare this with picture 5. Pandora led into the hall. The Latin word for led is ducta. The participle from the verb ducere, which means to lead. Okay, we get our word aqueduct from that word, duct tape. Okay, the word ducere means to lead. An aqueduct is a something that's built like a channel or a tunnel that is built up in the air. The Romans were famous for these, to bring water, to lead water from one spot to the other. Anyway, just an example of a derivative there. Because Pandora is feminine, the word ductus has to have the feminine ending ducta. We say that the participle must agree with the noun, and that goes back to our rule. Adjectives must agree with the noun they describe. All right, I've given you quite a lot to think about. If you want to go back, rewind the video, look at those sentences again, and then we will work on this again next week. I'll come back and explain some more about participles and verbals. And remember, a verbal is a verb that acts like another part of speech. All right. For those of you studious people that get all of your work done and then you're looking for more to learn, and I hope you will take this and maybe watch it a couple of times and think about it and look how it translates into the Latin sentences in chapter 10. All right, have a great day. I miss you all, and I hope you're doing well, and I'll see you soon. Vale.